Welcome everyone to the Electrical Culture of Safety LiveWire program, where we delve into all the complexities of creating a culture of safety within the electric utility industry. In each episode, we feature interviews with subject matter experts, industry leaders, safety professionals, and field personnel from across the industry, where we discuss ways to develop a collective reflection of the perception, attitudes, and shared experiences of the safety culture within our industry. Welcome to ECOS LiveWire.
We got a great guest here today, Mr. Caleb Thompson with Timpson's Training Systems. This is ECOS LiveWire 012. And this is a great guest. He's going to have a lot of good things to say. I've known Caleb for several years now throughout the industry. We cross paths and he does training. And obviously you all know bierermeters does training. And he's got a neat system and a neat attitude. I really enjoy that he's here in this industry and he's making an impact. And it's a neat thing to witness what he does. So I'm going to read you a little bit about him. Since he was a small child, Caleb has been mesmerized by electricity of all forms. Initiated by finding a transformer in his grandmother's basement at the age of 10, he taught himself what it was and how it worked. And he figured out how to take them apart and put them back together again. Soon after, Caleb moved on to being fascinated by Tesla coils and eventually began handcrafting them. It was no surprise to anyone that while in high school, he took part in the electrical trade program and moved on to an electrical apprenticeship program upon graduation. Several years later, he joined the lineman's apprenticeship program at the Exelon utility, where he worked to become a lead journeyman lineman, spending half of his time in the field and the other half sharing his knowledge, training apprentices and journeys. Caleb's proudest achievement is founding Timpson's Electrical and Aerial Services, LLC, where he has elevated lineman training standards by developing a way for trainees to train in a safe, energized environment. He has invented a way for meter distribution and transmission training yards to be energized to full voltage, but at a low, non-lethal current level. Caleb was born, raised, and currently resides in Maryland. Though he's always lived in the East Coast, his passions of line work and rock climbing have taken him all over the United States. And I also know that he travels internationally as well now. So down to South America, I know, and not sure other places, but he gets around. He's busy and he's always training. It's amazing. So Caleb, come on aboard, brother.
Hey, buddy, how you doing? Thanks
good,
for having
brother.
me.
How you been, man?
Good. Been real good.
Family, everybody, Maryland.
Everybody's great, fantastic. It's been pretty crappy weather here.
Yeah.
Few days, heavy snow and then rain, and now it's warm and everything's wet and muddy. You know, the norm.
Yeah. Well, that's that Maryland winter, right?
Well, it wasn't like that when I was a kid. It's the seasons seem to have shifted a little bit. You know, it gets colder later and stays colder for longer.
Dang, it's like climate change, buddy.
Absolutely.
So, hey, give us a rundown, man. How's the cabin been coming along? You were working on that for several years, and where are you at on that?
So actually, you know, it's funny you asked that. I was just down there yesterday. I got the roof completely done on one side, and the other side it's all insulated and ready for the metal to go up. The second floor is currently going in the cabin. So right now it's just an open shell from the first floor all the way up. And I believe it's 20 feet. So
wow.
Inside. So, you know, the second floor itself is going to be about 14 inches thick.
Wow.
And you'll have 8 foot of space on the first floor, and the rest of it will be in the A-frame of the second floor. So it's coming along. Nice. A lot of work. I can't really get equipment to it.
Yeah. So I know you've been working on that. Have you have you completed a sleepover yet in that thing? It's dried in now.
No, well, the eaves are still open though. So the roof is covering it, but the eaves are open. Somewhat. So there's a lot of work to do still. I mean, you know, as I travel, it's hard to get time.
No, you just don't have any time, man. So tell us what else is new with you right now in your life. I know you're traveling a lot, doing a lot of training. Tell us where the scope of your work. Give us some little bit about Timpson's training and what you're busy doing out there.
Yeah. So, the past several years, as you know, I've been traveling around a lot, doing a lot of rigging and grounding training. And a lot of that I've done for Brady through written and read, some of it for Timpson, a lot of it for the IBEW. We've got busy writing a couple of little books for the union, and some of which are like have QR codes, so it's a pocket guide where you can kind of scan the code and it takes you to a cool video of Brady and I, doing some pretty neat experiments to prove a point or disprove a point that, this works, this doesn't, and here's why. But not only saying here's why, but showing it. But lately, what I've been focusing on is in the industry as a whole, we've spent all these years with capital work, upgrading systems and lines to handle more and more loads and more industry. Pulling some copper down, putting some aluminum up, renewing lines, taking things out of the backyard and putting it in the front yard, or doing aerial to underground conversions, and even the other way around. But the next big push with the type of power that we are consuming now is going to be power quality. And that's starting to become a problem because, historically in the industry, we've used, in distribution anyway, inductive or resistive loads. And, with an inductive load, we have a pretty fantastic way of handling that or correcting that power factor. And that's from the capacitor bank. But with harmonic loading, like we see today with electronics and high efficient stuff, it causes a few more problems that we're not really completely equipped to handle all the time. And anything that we do as linemen out in the field can affect that, like oversizing transformers and things as simple as that can affect the amount of energy that we have to produce to give the customer what they need. And at the end of the day, as far as I'm concerned, if the hands out in the field like myself, if we can do something to improve that, then that's ultimately going to mean more capital for more work in the future, right? So if the utilities are all wasting money, that's less capital for us. That's less work, less job security. So, it's a thing of, if we can spread the word and get everybody on the same page and, hey, here's a few simple things we can do to help this problem. Right. So that's some of the things I've been focusing on lately with Timpson training. Some international things, still down in South America, mostly Chile.
Yeah.
Yep. And a lot of fun with transmission here lately. A lot of research and development with that.
Yeah. So you're those folks down in Chile, those folks there, you're helping their system. I know that they're not quite as probably efficient and tooling as far as what we're used to here in the States, but you're bringing, I think from my understanding, they're actually put in a Timpson's training system, have they not?
Two of them.
Yeah.
One in just north of Portamont and one in Victoria, Chile. And both of those locations are more southern end of Chile for a utility called Grupo Sayesa. And what's unique about that system is Chile, first off, is about the most advanced country in South America. And they adopt a lot of European standards for electrical, but they follow the United States. And when it comes to safety standards and innovation, they look closely at the United States and want to kind of mimic that. So they bring guys like myself in to not only bring new innovation and technology, but do training and kind of give them pointers on what they could do different. But what's unique about their system is they have a strictly fully Delta system. So here in the United States, we've kind of went more Y with everything. We've grounded substations. We have a common reference point to bring that fault current back to the substation. In Chile, it's 100% Delta. Everything's Delta. So it makes a couple of unique scenarios, especially when it comes to things like we were just talking about earlier, grounding and bonding. And again, with the Timpson training unit, because that was designed for a Y system. So being hooked up and converting it to make it work for what their needs was a challenge. But we were able to succeed in that pretty well. And what's more interesting is I don't really speak very good Spanish. I don't speak their language very well, but they still bring me in every year to do training. And I have an interpreter that comes with me. Jimmy. So and it's one of those things where the culture is so incredibly different there because they're so welcoming to new ideas. So when I go into a classroom, everybody is completely enthralled in what I'm saying. They don't necessarily understand the words that are coming out of my mouth, but they understand the body language.
Right. That's right. They do.
So, yes,
they do.
So it's one of those things where it's been very enlightening to me, and I've learned a lot. And their culture is very incredible. It's a really incredible culture.
That's awesome. I like how you brought up the fact that they understand body language, because that is actually one of the things that I like to share training as far as communication skills and leadership skills, is to recognize body language from the folks that you're working with. And that's a cool point. Like, share a little bit of how that has influenced you and how you learn that skill by being in Chile.
So
that's awesome.
It's an interesting question. And what I've learned, in fact, interestingly enough, I learned this more in the United States by following people and listening to people like Brady. But also, if you don't exert some type of body language, passion in what you're talking about and teaching, the training becomes less and less effective. And that's true no matter what you're training. For instance, if you have somebody that's trained to do a particular PowerPoint and they've memorized each one of those points so they can flip through the slides and get you through it, and your name signed on that list, so it says so and so Caleb Thompson has taken this class, and he signed his name saying that he's taken this class. Well, a lot of times when you have training like that, there is no body language. The person's standing up there, and it's like the old what was it, Ferris Bueller's Day Off, Bueller, just kind of standing up there. But when you put passion into what you're teaching, that body language just naturally will come out. And, and you can see that, you can read it on somebody. And that's what, like I said, I've kind of always had that passion when I teach, but I never recognized how effective it was until I went and watched Brady do a bunch of classes 4 or 5 years ago. I kind of followed him around and watched and tried to learn, take notes. And the way that he talks, the passion that he has when he speaks is contagious. It makes people, it almost commands you to listen.
That's right.
To hear what he has to say. And it's not because what he's saying is any more interesting than any other electrical topic. It's because of the way he's saying it. The passion that he exerts. So in Chile, if you stand up there and you just, stone face and talk, there's no, you can't push the message that you're trying to push. But when you're animated a little bit and you move around and you have the expressions and you can exert that passion, they start getting into it. And
that's awesome.
When Jimmy interprets what I'm saying, sometimes he has a hard time because he's not an electrical person. So trying to figure out how to translate an electrical term that I'm saying into Spanish sometimes isn't easy for him. But when I say it and put emphasis on a certain point, they understand, even if he gets it a little wrong.
That's awesome.
So they kind of get where I'm going with it, and they help him. So then they start getting involved, and that little notion where they get involved, just that little tip, gets everybody involved. So one of them gets it immediately what he's trying to say, and they raise their hand, they go up and they draw something on the board, and then all of them start talking about it, and then the questions start coming, and it just draws everybody in and makes it one. So it's pretty interesting.
So that's one of the skills of leadership, Caleb, as far as competence. So competence is one of the skills. And then another skill, you take the competence and you add it to connectivity. And when you get competence, so you know what you're talking about, that's one thing. And you have it down, that's one thing. But the delivery, the way that we are to deliver as far as the connectivity with the other folks. And then also, like you just said, as far as learning that skill, like Brady is so good at, and you're so good at, is learning that skill as far as being a leader, as far as how we connect everybody in the room, everybody together, not just the speaker to one or two people, but learning that skill of connecting everybody in the room to the conversation. And that's exactly what you're saying.
Yeah. So it's pretty interesting. I go around to the JATCs, and we do a lot of train to trainer stuff. And I've been asked before by different people, by friends, close friends of mine, but you're doing train to trainer, aren't you giving away the farm when you do that? And I said, no. First off, I'm passionate about this industry, and if I can pass something on that's going to potentially improve somebody's life, or maybe even save a life, who knows? I'm going to do it, and that means that I want everybody in general in this country, and hopefully eventually in the world, to be on the same page when it comes to electrical safety, and we're all teaching the same set of standards. So no matter where you go, you can speak the language to somebody else. But
that's awesome.
But one of the big things in it that I've noticed is it's not the material that I'm given that makes it, it's the delivery, the way that you teach it, the passion that you have in it.
Yes.
Delivery in general, you have to have that delivery, or it's just not effective. It doesn't. You can teach the same curriculum 100 different ways, and there's going to be 50 of them that are completely ineffective. Oh,
that's awesome.
So it's finding that effective way.
Yeah. So man, you brought up, so competence, and then you brought up compassion just now. We had connectivity, and then you brought up compassion, and we all, when we were little children growing up, we had our mom. The dad's not called the comforter. The mom is called the comforter. And that's because the mother gave us compassion, and that's a gift. And unfortunately, a lot of society, as we get older, we get away from our mother, that mother example, and we start getting hardened. Our mind gets thick and our heart gets hard. And then before you know it, we kind of lose that compassion as teenagers, and we're doing our own thing. You and I were guys. We went through our own guy thing and all that. And we kind of lose that skill of compassion that we had when we were little. And, but everybody has that skill, and everybody, because they were raised by a mother, everybody knows what that looks like. So when you bring competence, you bring the connectivity, and then you bring compassion, dude, everybody connects with that, because that's what they were connected with in the beginning, long time ago. So that's where you bring people together. So you nailed it. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's I like that, how you put that. I never thought about it in those terms. I think one of the things that kills compassion too, and this is just a product of the nature of the beast, is money in general. When money's involved, a lot of times that compassion starts dwindling and going right out the window.
Right.
But I kind of have been following a set of standards, or a set of morals that I've set for myself, that if you have that compassion, and you walk around and you train people. And here, listen, a lot of these train to trainer gigs that I do around the country, I do on my own dime, for free. And when you do that, you could look at it one way as you're giving away free work, but it's not that, because when you do the right thing, the good things come. The right things follow. So then when I travel around and do that, I always get calls for a company that wants to come out or wants me to come out to their site and pay me to consult or help them with training in some way. And, I'm always happy to do it. So it's just a way that I've configured traveling around the country, seeing what works and what doesn't work. And of course, again, I've said this 50 times already, but you have to have passion in what you do, or especially if you're going to be a trainer. That's a must.
You have to. And I've seen it, Caleb, and you have too, to where the trainer does not have connectivity, the skill. He does not have the skill, and it's a skill. He does not have the skill of compassion. And, quite frankly, some of those folks care less because they're in it for the check. They're not in it to help their fellow line worker at all. And the fact that you give back, and you and Brady, you guys have done a line worker safety national webinar through ECOS here at South Carolina. And then I went out to Idaho once to do one with you, both of you together. And you came out here once on your dime and your time. And so you prove through your actions, you prove what compassion looks like and giving back. And that's what we're trying to do in this industry, forming the line team, is to have folks grasp that mindset of giving back. And then we're successful. Your company is successful. You and Brady are successful. Bierer Meters, we're successful, and we give back. And people see that, and people gravitate. They do. They gravitate to that because that's a good spot to be. It's a great spot and a great environment mentally to exist within. That's wonderful.
It's interesting, talking about this topic when you go to the Lineman Rodeo, the conference, and you walk around, you look at the booths, and you think about how much money each one of these companies spend. And and I know because our companies are there, and it's not a little bit of money, it's a lot. You see some of them have guys like you and Brady who are out on the line the whole time, drawing in a crowd, teaching your knowledge. You have lines of people, and then you have some of these companies that will have two people that will sit there and not move for the whole 2 days that the conference goes on. And you think, I wonder if they understand how ineffective that is, and they might as well not spend the money to go, because if you're not going to put anything into it, you're not going to get anything out of it.
No.
But the same goes even if you're not spending money, or even if you're not getting paid. If you go to a gathering like ECOS or to a JATC for train the trainer, and you put into it, everything you have, even if you're not getting paid at that moment, it's still effective, and it's effective in helping you for the future. So, just like you said, it's if you get back what you put into it.
Yeah,
you really do.
What's strange is I like these live wires because they're live, and you and I did not go over. I did not send you anything as far as questions that I might ask, and you didn't send me anything saying, "Hey, Brent, ask these questions." You and I, this is where you and I understand each other. We've done that for years, where you and I connect. We connect, and when we see each other, it's like, we just start off where we left last time we saw each other, because we connect so well. And as far as bringing that together, that's called investing. So you brought this up, where they have value. These folks, they have value to us, and to you and to Brady. Truly, they are valuable. And what's really cool is you have to be vulnerable, and the compassion has to flow out of you in order to connect them together and make them realize that you're investing quality time into their lives. And people see value in that, Caleb. They feel it, they see it, and they call it inspiration. You see? So that is neat when you can inspire. That's, oh, we got to go to another training, 1 hour class or an hour and a half class. But when you inspire people, they want to be the first ones in the class and the last ones to leave the class. And guess what? They're the ones asking the dang questions. And
Yeah,
that's awesome.
well, you know, a good thing talking about that, I get that anticipation before a class where you're remember when you were a kid and your parents were going to take you someplace like skiing or to do something really cool, and you're excited and you have that anticipation looking forward to it. I get that same anticipation when it comes to training the class. And another one of the effective tools that I've learned over the years is when I talk about a particular topic, and I'll just say grounding because I've done a bunch of that, you bring up something that you start the class out with history, of course, because the history always draws people in, but then you go into something that is almost a paradox.
Yeah.
But true. So
right.
It makes guys question you. So
Like
you
an
start out
allegory.
with that. So as soon as you do that, you get the questions coming.
Yeah.
And then you answer the questions and you let those questions lead the class, because the guys are going to start asking, as soon as they start feeling comfortable asking questions, they're going to ask questions about stuff that they need to know, that they are confused on or they're lacking on. And of course, we will cover everything, but I'll let those questions lead the class in the direction that the class needs to go. And you get a lot more participation when you do that. But you got to come up with something that's going to draw the questions out of people. I found that not necessarily, controversial as in like political, but controversial topic that would do with grounding. Like, does it matter if your ground is on the line or load side of the feet, right? And somebody will, well, no, or somebody will say yes. And then you do a demonstration with 30 volts and a light bulb and a dead short, and you prove that point one way or the other. And that little demonstration will get guys gathered around and start asking questions. Well, wow, I didn't think that would happen. Can you explain more? Right. So it's things like that you do. I never go into it soft. You don't ease into it. You ease into it with the bomber statement that's going to get everybody's attention. What?
Yeah.
What did he say? That's not right. Challenge me, and we'll challenge each other. Right.
Yeah.
And then you get everybody starts getting passionate about it.
No, that's awesome. You and Brady are so good at that as far as your training. You all do the visual, you all do the hearing, and you all do the hands-on at all your trainings. And those three dynamics, that's how we learn. And then when you add in that compassion, the connectivity, and your competence, when you add all that in, I mean, man, you got those people. And what's really strange is, is it just me, or when you are all connected, you feel that energy and vibe, and it's almost like there's no time. It's like we spent 30 minutes talking here already. And to me, I don't even know what we even talked about hardly, and where the time went, because I don't even feel like it's been 30 minutes because it's exciting. It's fun. It's enjoyable. It's a feel good thing.
Yeah.
Doing it this way.
You've done an effective job with a group of people when at the end of that time, and I'm just going to say, occasionally there's some ladies in the class, but 99.9% of the time I'm training for a group of guys.
Yeah.
You've done an effective job at the end of that when you feel like you're good friends with all of them at the end.
Yeah.
And they all want your number and you want their number so you can keep in touch. Right. And that
awesome.
happens to me almost at every single job I go to. So I have thousands of numbers, and I'll start looking in my contacts, and I started having to put last names and a letter, like A, next to the people that I need to contact the most often, or else I get lost. I'll have 65 Steves in my. I'm like, oh, I don't know one Steve from another. So if it's a Steve that's important contact that I need to keep a hold of, I'll put A period Steve, so it comes up first. It's one of the first contacts.
Yeah. No, that's excellent, man.
Pretty neat dynamic there.
Yeah. So I've seen, knowing you for several years, it's been exciting to witness, we're all growing. And the fact that you and Brady are in continual learning mode, you and him, you guys are continually learning mode. It's not like you've topped out and that's it. No, you all are continually learning. And what's really neat is to watch both of you, is to watch your all's lives change and just get better and better and better, because you all are striving for excellence. And not only, but it's not even excellence for yourself. That's what's cool about learning more. You're learning more so that you can help others more, to give more of what you know. And to me, that's the epitome of a great lineman compared to an okay lineman. A lineman that leaves a line legacy. That's why I call it a line legacy, or a lineman that continually looks at his watch because he's about to retire. So it's a big difference, man. So tell us about that line legacy, as far as how you feel about that. How important is that to Caleb?
Yeah, it's very important. And I'll tell you, just before I talk about that, I'm sure you saw that Brady was inducted into the Lineman Hall of Fame. And man, I'm so proud of him. And you know what? He's so humble. He's almost too humble, because he thinks that he doesn't deserve it. But I can tell you, there's a couple of people in this industry that I've come across throughout the United States. And he is certainly one of the two people. Another guy, I'm not going to start bringing up a bunch of names because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. No, but if anybody deserved it, it's him. It's absolutely him. I mean, he's done so much for this industry that it's almost, you can't put a price on it. It's valuable. It's very valuable what he's given to the industry. So when I came up as a lineman, I was very unique. I actually didn't start with an Exelon company. Exelon bought the company that I worked for. And it was a very unique utility in that we did everything. We did all our own big capital work, underground, manhole work, gas, electric, troubleshooting. So, a lot of utilities these days, especially now, are maintenance shops. And the bulk of the big work is done by the contractors.
Right.
Well, the company I worked for, that kind of didn't go away. That was like that until I left in 2021. And what's interesting is there's a couple of guys I came up under that had that passion and line legacy and never got out of shape, never stopped working in the bucket, never stopped teaching. So, there was a lead lineman that had 30 years in the company that I came up under, named Tommy Fincher. And, I'd be in the backyard in hooks as an apprentice, and he would be trying to guide me on what he wanted me to do. And if it wasn't going the way he thought that it should be gone, his hooks were on and he was up on the pole next to me, guiding me, showing me, lending me a hand, teaching me. And, there was a bunch of guys just like him that I came up under. Now, at some point, there was this hiring freeze in the United States where the whole country seemed to not hire linemen. And all those guys that had that instillment in them kind of walked out of the industry at the same time. They all retired. Then it was left with a bunch of inexperienced guys like myself at the time who had a chip on my shoulder, and I had that ego, but I didn't know what I thought. And, a lot of those guys have paid the ultimate price for that. And, it seems like as we go on, we're losing some of that, that passion and those guys that want to tote the line in place of, this is a job where I can make a lot of money. So I'm going to go to work. It's going to be my job. That's all it's going to be. But, line work to me is a way of life. It's not just a job. It's who I am. I'm a lineman. That's who I am. And it's a way of life to me, just like rock climbing and the other things I have passion for. So, I think that in terms of safety, incident prevention, and, things like that, you have to have those people. You have to. You can't just be, a job that I'm going to go in and I'm going to make as much money as I can and then leave and sail off into the sunset. It's got to be a lifelong experience where you're constantly learning, constantly willing to learn, and more than that, willing to give your knowledge to somebody else.
That's right. Yeah. And Caleb, you're a testament. You're a testament of what it looks like to truly live a line legacy. What's amazing, Caleb, is when we leave, whether we leave this earth and we're still trying to train and do what we can to help others prior to that time, and then that's our line legacy. No. In order to leave a line legacy, you have to be living it prior to leaving a line legacy.
Yeah.
So, and you're a great testament of what that means and what that looks like. And I've always appreciated your skill set, and I've always appreciated that that example that you give to our other line workers all around us. It's beautiful.
Speaking of the learning, it's the transmission units that we've been commissioning here lately has that's taught me more than I thought I'd ever learn about electrical. It's been a challenge for us to figure out how to deal with power factor and capacitive reactance and stuff of that nature to get these yards up and running. But it was totally worth it. And, seeing these guys be able to do bare hand training, and they're sending videos of bonding on and bonding off with the buckets. And I got a video of a company doing helicopter training on 38 kV line. And it's I try not to say that it makes me proud, but in a certain way it does. And I'm happy that what we're doing is having some kind of an impact that's positive. That's kind of fulfills you.
No, man. And like I said, we've talked about this before. I would love to spend a few days with you on commissioning a system for one of your customers, and maybe adding in some of the leadership and communication skill set in on one of your commissions. So, just to add a little bit more flavor and a little bit more depth to one of them. And if your customer was open to that, that would be excellent and exciting for Bierer to share and partner up with you from time to time in doing so.
And we've been talking about that for years. It just seems like we both get busy, and I'm a lot of the times when I do these startups, it's not like something that's scheduled months out. It's they call and I have availability right now. I jump in my truck and load up the camper, or I jump on a plane and head out the site. And it just it happens quick.
Well,
and you try to make the best of all of it.
Well, let's talk about that. So I'm a client, okay, Caleb, and I've got a training yard, and I want to energize. Let's say I have an energized training yard, or I want to step it up, and I want to take it to that next step as far as energizing it. So I've heard about your system. I've heard a lot of good things about it. So I'm your customer, and I'm going to give you a call. So kind of walk the folks through in this live line story, kind of just a nutshell of start to finish. What does that look like?
So, it starts out, of course, always with a phone call or an email or something of that nature. Somebody might shoot me a text and say, hey, I got your number from so-and-so. A lot of times Jen fields those calls because on the website it's goes to an office number. But, what I've figured out over the years, and just a preempt into that, is a lot of people's sales tactic. And I heard a guy say this at the Lyman Rodeo, that it was a guy selling dynos. And he said, my sales tactic is I go to the very top echelon of the company and I tell them why this is so important that these guys have it. And then they buy it, make them use it. And I said, that's not effective though, because what happens is they sit in the truck and they'll never use them. He said, but I made a sale. He said, but the sale ends there, right? What I do is I get at the heart of the linemen who are going to be training on it and tell them about it. And then they want it and they start pushing it to their superiors, and then their superiors push it to the next level. And then the units get bought, and then the guys want to train on it. They want to use it. So, a lot of times it's the questions start coming, the questions I have, are you training de-energized now or are you energized? Like maybe a circuit like you have at the Bierer yard there with, you have a recloser that comes in, you close the recloser and it's coming right off the line. And oddly enough, I think it's more important, even though it's dangerous, that trainees are learning on an energized line. Because de-energized is, in my opinion, almost worthless, because it's like a firefighter learning to put out a fire without a fire. Exactly. You have to have a fire to put out. And the feeling you get from loving primary is not the same as pretending. So, or hot sticking or any of that. So, they'll kind of give me a rundown of what they want. We want to be able to let these guys get up there and do real tasks energized. And if there's a issue, they're not going to have a big arc flash, and we're not going to have to worry about somebody having a serious contact and dying. Well, the Timpson, training system is right for you then, right? Because what we offer is the way that the transformers are built. And, it took me years to develop this transformer. It's similar to like a neon sign transformer, where it's 100% impedance. Only with our transformer, when you draw a load, the gap in the core closes a little bit. So what that allows to happen is the transformer is still 100% impedance, meaning that you can't have an arc flash, fault current's not going to travel, but your voltage steps up. So on a neon sign transformer, if it's 30 milliamp current limited and you put 15 milliamps of load on it, you've lost half your voltage, because that's how it works. When you reach 30 milliamps, the voltage is zero. Well, on ours, if they're 60 milliamp or 100 milliamp transformers, when you reach that threshold, the voltage is absolutely zero. But leading up to that, the voltage maintains. So you're able to energize the training yard to full voltage without that possibility of arc flash. But then the control panels inside have multiple sets of redundant relays, and it's monitoring the system 500 to 1,000 times a second for an anomaly. So, the way it works and the way those two integrate with each other, it makes for a much safer, with no possibility of arc flash, training. So, once I go through and I explain, a lot of times they'll be excited about it, and I'll throw in there, hey, do you want to see one in action? Well, yeah. And, where are you located exactly? And we got a yard 3 hours from there that has one in it. Let me come, and I'll fly out there and meet you out there. And you can that way you can hear from a user, from, a customer, and not from me. So it's not a sales tactic. And hey, if you don't want me to fly out there, you can go out and just talk to them alone and get a better idea. So I always give that option, and most of them take it up, and they go out and they talk to the customer and they see it in action. And a lot of times I'm there, sometimes I'm not. And then, they want to make that choice and drop the hammer.
Yeah.
And then it's everything's custom built. So they tell us what they want, the voltages that they want. I get the transformers started, and then the panels, the control panels are all built right here in Maryland. All the steel and copper is sourced from the United States. They're built in the United States, the transformers. Everything that we can get from this country for that system is bought from this country. There's only a few things that we are unable to procure in the United States, and they're German. But everything else is from here. It's built here. And, the lead times vary. It could be 8 weeks. It could be 20 weeks. But once they're out in the system, they install it, and then I'll come out and do a startup. And then we do a little instructional video on how to operate it. And I do questions and answers and, kind of go through what you can and can't do. But I get questions sometimes. So I can let these guys make a critical error now. And not have to stop them. Well, I disagree with that. I don't think that you ever let anybody make a critical error just because it's a safety system, right? The whole purpose of that system is to treat it like you would treat the lines out in the field. So if you see somebody that's going to make a critical error, you stop them. Hey, stop.
Right.
That will get you killed. Well, I've had a lot of spirited discussion on that where somebody would say, well, but then they learn from it.
Right. They do.
I agree that learning from your mistakes is always a fantastic way of learning. Learning from a mistake that could potentially be fatal, I would never let somebody put themselves in that position, even with my own system, because it's still full voltage. Oftentimes it's still 12-4-7. That you're working with. So if I see somebody getting ready to get in between something where they're going to have a contact, I'm going to stop them. I'm not going to allow that to happen. And just like I wouldn't allow it to happen out in the field, I'm not going to allow it to happen in the training yard. But that's just my take on it. That's how I train. I'll let somebody back themselves into a corner where it's going to be difficult for them to continue the job with what they've done. So they learn from that. But if they're going to have a contact, I'm not going to let themselves back. I'm not going to let them back themselves into that corner. I would stop them before that happened.
That's awesome. So what do you all see as far as the future? Do you have, what's your plans with Timpson's training systems for the future? What are you going after as far as helping other crews stay safe using this system? Any changes? You said you're doing some transmission systems. That's cool, man. What else?
Yeah.
What else, man? That's awesome.
So, we do a lower voltage system too for meter training, and that's a really integrated system. It's works pretty well. I've had a lot of good feedback on it, and I've had some feedback too that the touch screen might be a little overcomplicated, which we've been working on making that less complicated. But where the future is, I'd like to eventually be able to energize training yards over 138. So right now we can energize up to 138,000 volts. I'd like to get up there to 500,000 or at least 345 kV, because there's a big difference between 138 and 345, and like there's a big difference between 4 kV and 25 kV. So I'd like to keep pushing the envelope there, and also rather than just trying to make sales, my thought process is more in continuing to touch base with the customers that have the system. And not only touching base with the trainers, but touching base with people who have went through training and used that system and ask for their feedback. Like, what did you think of? What do you think we could improve on? In your opinion, going through that training, what would you have liked to have seen differently? And the same with the trainers. As a trainer, what would you like to see? Because at the end of the day, if I can help the trainers achieve their goals for training, then I've achieved my goal. So
that's right.
I kind of look into that. And you know what, the system, really the system sells itself. There's enough of I think we're in 60 locations in the United States right now. So there's enough of them around that people see and they want and they call and ask. But more than that, when I get on site, I like to kind of feel the guys out about what their goals are for training, and not just out in the yard, but in the classroom. And, I can help with that.
Yeah.
So to try to stay relevant, that's a
awesome
big thing. You don't just make a sale to somebody and walk away.
Yep.
You make a sale and you touch base with them every so often, and you try to stay relevant in their mind. So if they have any other needs, I can help them.
Yeah.
That's my goal, is just to continue doing what I'm doing and trying to improve on it.
Yeah. I that's awesome. And that's how we should do business. We do that. We do the beer meters. We follow up, and then we have continual training that is available to our customers that, we don't charge, because we make the money on the sales of meters to other customers too. So we do the continual training and YouTube videos and all that. So that's pretty exciting. What about the IBEW, Caleb, as far as the wireman, the inside guy? What about training systems for that low voltage?
So that's kind of where the direction that the meter system is heading. And I'm sure that I'm an electrician, and my partner is also an electrician, and we're both masters at that skill and hold a license and that as well. And that's really what Timpson Electrical and Aerial started out as, inside and outside electrical, for commercial industrial applications, and up to 34 kV. So, with that being said, it's such the utility industry, this side of it is such a niche to get into. You would think it's a small industry, but it is not. And it's demanding, and there's a lot of phone calls. So the inside industry is even bigger, believe it or not. And so, at community colleges and stuff like that, and apprenticeship programs for the inside locals, that is also on our radar. And we're kind of pushing towards that, but there's not as much of a need for it there as there is in the outside. So most of my focus has been in the outside. Now, that's not to say there's not a lot of fatalities for electrical. And, it would be nice if I could get into some of those applications where I can do day trainings and have a bunch of cool equipment set up and do some experiments and just talk to some of these guys. The opportunity just hasn't presented itself to me yet.
Well, I think those days will be coming your way more and more as you expand out, and as you have more and more influence upon the industry, both obviously outside, but I see you going inside more and more too. I think that'll be your future as well. So yeah, man, you're doing great. You guys did that first ECOS, the passion behind the idea, you and Brady. Remember that?
Yeah,
that was a lot of
hell.
That was fun. And if you all want that video, or Caleb's other video he's done when he came here solo, man, I'd recommend you guys watch Caleb and Brady on that 005. That's when we started fresh, 2.5, almost 3 years ago, like June of 2022. Dang, it's already been, but that's interesting, because you and Brady came up with the title, and this whole LiveWire story, which is your story and Brady's story, that title is so true today, the passion and behind the idea. So I would encourage all the listeners to contact Mr. Caleb and Mr. Brady, and their contact information will be edited into the backside of this, and get a hold of them and get their training written and read. grounding, whatever. These folks are the best of the very best. So, brother, I appreciate you, Caleb, and it's good seeing you again.
Hey,
Okay.
good seeing you too, Brett. And just before we get off there, that video that you're going to put a link up to, for anybody who hasn't seen it, there's a preamp, there's a little teaser video that comes with that.
Yeah.
And it was, we literally were doing experiments and accidentally made step potential inside the studio. And we were able to measure that on the floor with your meters. And it was pretty incredible watching that. So it's a pretty neat watch to see.
Yeah. No, that was fun, dude. That was an eye opener to see that step potential on that like real thin carpet on the concrete slab. It was a little spooky, dude.
It was.
That was a little spooky. Right there in front of our face, man. And you know, that's neat. I use those meters, as you know, to train capacitance, coupling with capacitance for a line worker. And I try to train these guys that they could use these tools like the PD25 for scientific experiments, like what you're saying. And they could use these tools to measure the electrical field in the air around their head, on their body, flowing across their PPE. I mean, it's mind blowing when you realize that it's not electrical theory. No, it's electrical reality.
Yeah.
And and you guys are, it's great to have you guys sharing with all of us your all's reality to make this life that much more real and significant. And man, I appreciate both of you guys. Appreciate Caleb.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you too.